see the background. This is a working environment. We do our photographs behind me. I do my listings here. We have a separate shipping room. I'm so busy working for a living, I don't have time to hire nice studio lighting and a misleading background here in our house, just like so many of the people who've watched this channel for a while and who have been members of my groups for a long time. We're all processing sales so hard, we fear our keyboards might soon file workers' comp. And one of the many reasons sales are so good for those who follow this channel and simply do what I say, and we'll talk about am I qualified to even say that soon in just a few minutes. All the others looking in, not doing anything that we suggest, they choose to ignore my advice, which literally means they're choosing to ignore eBay's advice. And their sales are squeezed so tightly, they need a safe word. Your sales are going to be so random if you don't do what eBay wants you to do. Well, along those lines, a viewer on this channel, and I appreciate the comment, he had the following to say on one of the videos where I was talking about photography and what your photos on eBay should look like. Done several photography videos here. I have not one time changed the advice I first gave you. Actually, the very first video on this channel was about pictures. The 6-part series I did fairly early last year for brand new eBayers on how to implement all of these ultra advanced eBay strategies. It includes exactly what I'm about to say, and that is all pictures should be square. The first picture should have a white background. Now, why on earth do I say that? It's because eBay says that. You don't have to listen to me. You can read a help screen. Most people don't, but there's more to it than that. I've hammered you before about a white background and all of that. There's more to it. Pay attention here because I think I'm going to convince you of something that probably in your gut you knew was right, but you just didn't want to do. So here's what the viewer wrote to me and said. 1 foot flipper. I've seen him once in a while on YouTube. I don't know anything about him. I probably have never watched an entire video all the way through, but here's what the viewer said. 1 foot flipper once said in a comment to me that artificial looking backgrounds may create false expectations, i.e. that's Latin lingo for that is, it is a stock photo and they are buying a new product from an Amazon-like retailer. Those of you who know me, you know good and well, I am not an Amazon-like retailer. I despise reselling on Amazon. I did it 3 years full time. I was really an expert at it. I spoke at conferences all over the United States on selling on Amazon. I'm here to tell you, I am very anti-reselling on Amazon. I am here to tell you, I am extremely pro reselling on eBay. So he said, don't use a photo that looks phony. It looks like a stock photo, because that's going to make people think you're an Amazon-like retailer. What does that mean? Does it mean you sell a whole lot of items, although very low profit? Well, that's not me. That's not a lot of people that have followed my advice for years. We sell a lot at high profit, not Amazon stolen profits with their high fees. And this guy nice guy, I'm sure. I think he's commented before on videos. I really appreciate the comment. He went on and said, I tend to agree. I don't want Amazon buyers for my items. Almost every item you ever sell on eBay is bought by someone who buys on Amazon. I'm not sure how you can disagree with that statement. But anyway, he doesn't want Amazon buyers for his items because, quote, Amazon buyers like to return things and can be obnoxiously entitled. Well, the whole world's obnoxiously entitled these days. That's true. I don't know that people who buy on Amazon like to return things. It doesn't really jive with me, but at the same time, I'm a man. Men generally don't like to return things. But I don't think ladies like to return things. I think they'd like to buy an item and it work and it'd be what they want and it was described well and it was photographed properly. I think they want to be happy with their purchase. I don't think anyone likes to return items. But I know what he means. He means they return a whole lot more than eBay buyers. Although, I say it again, they're the same group. And for collectibles, he goes on, and for collectibles, it really doesn't matter. Crisp, detailed, and accurate photos of the item itself matters. Oh, I strongly agree. For collectibles, I agree for everything, including bars of soap. If you sell brand new bars of Ivory soap, I think that crisp, detailed, and accurate photos of the item itself matters. Whether it's collectible or not, or brand new bars of soap, you need crisp, detailed, and accurate photos. That's why from video number 1 on this channel. And those of you who were in my paid subscriber group for years, you know that all we do is promote crisp, detailed, and accurate photos. The last thing he says is the background is irrelevant to them, meaning buyers. He's saying the background used doesn't really matter. Now that's what this 1 foot flipper taught, and I want to state up front, I don't know anything about 1 foot flipper. I don't know anything about the guy. He might have a far greater history of sales than I do, even in my personal eBay account. I've got 3 reselling accounts on eBay, but on my personal account, I've had the longest. He might have a lot more sales than I do. 6.9 thousand items versus mine, 19,000 items. Well, no, he doesn't have more than I do, but maybe he's been around longer than me. I've only been around 26 years, more than a quarter of a century. eBay's been around about 30 years. So maybe he's been around since day 1, and I didn't get on the eBay bandwagon until 4 years later. Maybe Maybe he's got a lot more experience. Maybe he's got 30 years of experience versus my hardly anything 26 years experience. I'll accept that. I know my betters when I see it. So maybe he's been around longer. I don't know. Maybe he knows more about eBay than I do. That's very likely. At the same time, it's not probable that someone knows more about eBay than I do, but it's possible. Maybe he makes a lot more money at eBay than I do. I've got 3 active selling accounts that spit out sales faster than a Kardashian drops a new skincare line, but that doesn't mean 1 Foot Flipper doesn't sell faster than me. He might make a lot more money than I do. Finally, maybe he's missing more appendages than I am. That's possible. And it turns out he's not. Although, I guess that's not really something one should brag about. It's just the way it is. I do want to say that I am from the start saying, I don't know anything about this guy that he brought up, that this viewer brought up, this 1 Foot Flipper. I don't know anything about him. He seemed like a great guy. Seemed like a real super nice guy, real friendly. I'm sure I could learn a lot from him on eBay, just because I have more experience, just because I have a lot more sales, just because I have far better feedback than he does, just because. That's just stats. That doesn't really, in reality, prove that I'm better than he is at eBay. I would never say that. I truly do not imply that. I do want to set the record straight as far as who you listen to, though. You probably should consider my statistics, or as we say in Oklahoma, my statistics, when you're deciding who to pay attention to on YouTube videos as far as selling on eBay. Probably my statistics are worth paying some attention to and then deciding maybe there's something here for you, maybe there's something at 1 Foot Flipper for you. Maybe there's something at lots of YouTube videos about eBay for you. That's great. Viva la différence. I think that's Mexican for long live France. I don't even know why I said it. Here is a bottom line. Every single thing I teach you on this channel about taking pictures comes directly from 2 sources, eBay and Google. Now, when it comes to eBay, I'm sure there are people on YouTube who have been to far more eBay open conferences than I have. I'm sure there are people making YouTube videos on how to sell on eBay who have watched far more eBay sales training videos than I have. I'm sure there have been far more people that were certified as an eBay trainer before 2010. Officially, an official trainer for eBay before 2010. I was. I'm sure there were people far before I got that official notice from eBay that I could publicly state that they had approved me for training other people. But what you learn here comes from eBay, especially when it comes to pictures. I also mentioned Google. Google also teaches us what we should have in our pictures. Google says we want a white background. eBay says we want a white background. Both of them say we want a white background for that first picture. Now, Google Shopping and eBay. See, eBay funnels millions of listings to Google every night, and Google will accept the ones they want to show on Google Shopping because Google wants the commission from a sale. It doesn't cost us as sellers anymore if Google triggers a sale, but Google makes more. Google wants to sell a lot of things on eBay. eBay wants to sell a lot of things. eBay doesn't make money if we don't sell anything. So if white backgrounds decrease our sales, it doesn't make any sense that eBay would tell us that. If white backgrounds decrease our sales, on that first picture only, it doesn't make sense that Google Shopping would want that. Just 3 years ago, eBay required that all first pictures be square and have a white background. But guess what? They couldn't enforce it because hardly any seller did it. It kind of reminds me of someone that gives advice that says, if you do a white background, it'll just look like a stock photo and no one's going to buy from you. eBay doesn't seem to agree with that advice. eBay used to require the first photo have white background. No one did it. eBay then added the little tool on every single listing that lets us create a white background on that first photo, or on all our photos, but the first one is what was required whenever they added that tool, and eBay didn't do a great job at that. It still doesn't work great, but it works. And still no one makes their first picture have a white background, even though eBay Open over and over and over announced from the stage, we need a white background. Even though Google Shopping required a white background before they would take any item that eBay sent them and display it up in Google Shopping that day. So eBay couldn't enforce it because hardly any seller did it. Google Shopping actually had to display a lot of eBay pictures that didn't have a white background on that first picture because otherwise Google would never sell an eBay item because almost no eBayer does that. In general, if you look at Google Shopping results and you look at how many items from eBay they are displaying at any one time, the overwhelming majority, generally, most of the time, will have a white background. Even though Google got a whole lot fewer white backgrounds than messy backgrounds or just non-white backgrounds, they still make a strong preference to showing only those sellers that actually did what Google wants and eBay wants. Although they don't require it anymore because what good did it do? No seller seems to want to follow instructions. I can't believe that eBay sellers who have never owned eBay, I can't believe they think they know more than eBay. I can't believe eBay sellers that have never owned Google think they know more than Google. But a lot of you do. And God love you, maybe you do know more than they do about selling. It's possible. Marketers for years have always known since the online selling communities began before the year 2000 that if you have a white background on a first initial photo, you will sell more items. You will get more click-throughs. A buyer is more likely to click through on a picture with a white background than any other background. It doesn't mean you're going to get the sale. Once a potential buyer clicks through on your picture in a search result, because yours had a nice clean white background and they want to know more, they can actually see your picture. It's actually in focus. It's actually taking up the whole frame. It's done exactly the way I've always said. eBay's always told you how to do pictures. Google always wants pictures done. Potential buyers are more likely to click on your item as long as it's square and has a white background, but you still have to sell the user. Your price has to be right. The rest of the pictures have to be right. The item specifics, the condition, it all has to sell the buyer. That white background only ensures that you get more clicks on average in general than any other seller. Now, what's he talking about here with this stock photo? Since the first week of this channel, I've always said, only the first picture has a white background. Why? It's because you want to show all the other pictures just in your natural, clean environment. On a table, if it's a kitchen mixer, you might want to show it in your kitchen. You don't want a messy background, but you want a normal background. You want your buyers to see, look, I'm really getting this item. It's obvious this isn't just some stock magazine photo that this seller has stolen and who knows what my item's actually going to look like. No, all of your pictures, and the more pictures you list, the higher you get in search results. I don't know about you. I want every one of my listings to appear in every search result that's ever generated from eBay. Maybe you don't want that. Okay. Maybe you feel sorry for your competition. You don't like to sell more than people who are trying to compete against you. That's okay. You don't have to. Here's the bottom line about pictures without white backgrounds on that first picture. All the rest should be normal backgrounds so the buyer knows this isn't a stock photo. Nothing's changed here on my end. I've said this ever since this channel began. I've said this ever since I had a paid subscription eBay training group for 5 years before I released this channel and decided to do everything for eBay sellers free of charge. I've always said, don't make every picture white background or they're going to think you're using stock photos from somewhere, photos you didn't take. So what's the problem here, One Foot Flipper? I'll tell you what the problem is. People who fight against the first picture being white, they're just lazy. I'm not saying One Foot Flipper's lazy. I don't know if this is his reason or not. But in general, most people are just too lazy to do what they should do. That means they're going to sell less. That means I'm going to beat them in sales. That means if they're trying to sell something against me, I'm usually going to win. I'm usually going to sell it for higher. I'm usually going to sell it faster. Generally, my photos are going to get clicks faster than anyone else because my first picture does exactly what eBay and or Google Shopping wants me to do. My first picture has a white background on every single listing I have because marketing has known for 2 decades and more that online pictures with a white background always get more click-throughs than the other pictures. So One Foot Flipper, I'm not saying he's lazy. I'm not saying that he just has this philosophy so that he doesn't have to do white photos, so that he can do messy backgrounds and backgrounds that kind of hide the item, and so that he doesn't really have to zoom in closely where someone can see an item, so that he doesn't have to do square pictures. All pictures on eBay must be square. eBay says that. The very first video on this channel shows you why. You will have items that do not display properly on a cell phone, and you're going to lose sales if you don't make every picture square. Some people, and I'm not saying One Foot Flipper's doing this, are far too lazy to make every picture square because they don't care. I don't know why. I go to all this trouble because I want to make more money. A lot of times you think you don't really want to make a lot of money. I don't know why you're messing with this. I'm not saying that's One Foot Flipper's deal. I'm just saying that's why a lot of people fight so hard. Me, eBay, Google Shopping, marketing techniques for the last 20 years, they fight so hard against doing a white background, and they fight eBay so hard against square pictures because they just don't want to mess with it. That's okay. You're not going to have as many sales as I do. I'm going to be rewarded for that. You're not. In general, all things being equal. Okay, it's a free market. Knock yourself out. I practice what I preach. If you look through my items, when you click through, you're going to see only the first picture has a white background, but every picture is square, just because I want to sell things. The first picture here, white background. Second picture, no, that's obviously not a stock photo. That's obviously not a stock photo. You can kind of see a table scratch up here. This isn't a stock photo. This is sort of a dirty yardstick. Probably ought to get a better yardstick. I actually don't like that. This is a stock photo. This is not a stock photo. This is not a stock photo. Everyone knows it. But when you get back to the original, it's a square picture, as all of them are square, but this one has a white background, as every single item I sell does, because that's what eBay wants, because that's what Google Shopping wants, because Google Shopping is far more likely to take my listing for a vintage leather Levi's keychain over someone else's who doesn't have a white background on their first picture because they're too lazy. Google Shopping's far more likely to take my listing whenever someone's looking for vintage leather Levi key rings. They're far more likely to take my listing than someone else because other people don't do square pictures. They don't show up properly on a cell phone in a lot of cases. Google knows that. Google knows a little bit about how to sell something. More than I do, probably more than you do, probably more than One Foot Flipper. I don't know. Maybe he knows more than everyone. Great. He might, but you got to decide. What's it worth to you to take someone's advice versus listen to someone's of what you should be doing? Now, I will say, looking at One Foot Flipper's account, he has a lot more items for sale than I do. Out of my personal account, this one that I'm showing you, he has a lot more items for sale than I do. If you don't worry about taking good pictures, if whatever your camera is set to, if it happens to be portrait, if it happens to be landscape, if 25% of your pictures don't show up properly on a cell phone screen, clean, whatever. You don't do any white photos. You don't do anything. You don't care if the background's dirty. You don't care if it's messy. You don't care if you zoom in the way you should. Look at this keychain. That's about as zoomed as I could get. I don't show things far off the way other people do. I'm not saying One Foot Flipper does that most of the time. We saw a few examples of it. That might have just been a fluke. But I always want my pictures in frame like this. Guess what? One Foot Flipper might have a lot more items for sale than I do because he doesn't take the time I do to take pictures and to process them the way they should be done, the way eBay wants, the way Google Shopping wants, the way everyone who knows about marketing does. I don't know what One Foot Flipper, that's hard to say, earns on eBay. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. You can certainly listen to his advice if you like it better. You should. Listen to everyone and then make your own decision as far as what's best for you. So always do what's best for you in your business. When it comes to a white background, always do what's best for you and your business. Now, anytime I say always do what's best for you and your business, that's code talk for you're kind of being foolish, but maybe not this one time. Maybe I'm not really saying you're kind of being foolish whenever I say you should always do what's best for your own business. I don't know. I want to do what eBay says is best. I want to do what Google Shopping says is best. I think they know more than I do, at least. So I'm going to go with them and not from someone who hasn't sold as long as I have, who doesn't have the feedback that I have. Not saying that's One Foot Flipper, doesn't make as much money as I do on eBay. He might make a lot more. Who doesn't have as many items listed as I do. He's got tons more items than I do. Maybe he's got tons more items because he doesn't sell very many. Maybe my sell-through is incredibly fast. Maybe it's hard for me to build an inventory over 2,000 items. And the joyful reality for my family is it is hard for me to build an inventory over 2,000 items. Very difficult. I'll list 20, 30 items today, 20, 30 items or more sell tomorrow. It's just hard for me to grow an inventory. When I start bumping up against 2,000 items, eBay just knocks me down back to 1,500, 1,200 because items just sell so fast. So I can't have a 15,000 item inventory, 16,000 items. He's got something like that, maybe more, maybe 19,000 items in his inventory. And you can only do that if you just take pictures real fast and list real fast and you don't really worry about item specifics, which he might. I'm just saying he might worry about item specifics. I don't know. But if it's like his pictures, I doubt he does. But he gets a lot more listed than I ever will. He has a lot more bait in the water than I ever will. Percentage-wise, my bait is seen more than his, percentage-wise. But he still might sell a lot more because he gets a lot more items listed than I do because he doesn't worry about pictures. Great. That is a strategy. That's a doable strategy that works for some people. Bottom line, listen to everyone who's an expert. Is One Foot Flipper an eBay expert? Definitely. Am I an eBay expert? Definitely. Listen to all the experts, process the information, and I'm being serious this time. You need to make a decision that really is right for you, but you have to take into account valuable, historic, knowledgeable information. If you don't, you're just shooting blanks in the dark. You're not going to hit anything. Your hook is not going to have a worm on it when you toss it into the water. What if you take all of your pictures the way One Foot Flipper probably does? You just take them real fast. You don't worry about something in the background or whatever, something kind of looking real messy. Such lines all over the place on his backboard that you can't really see the item. It's really confusing. If you do that, you might sell a whole lot more. You might, but how much more will you sell if you do what I suggest? Forget me. How much more will you sell if you do what Google wants you to do? How much more will you sell if you do what eBay tells you to do? Those people are cheering us on. eBay is cheering us on. eBay doesn't want us not to sell. eBay wants every listing we list to sell immediately. They're not telling you this to keep the monk down. They're telling you this so that you have an incredibly prosperous career selling full-time on eBay. And I want that for you also.